Hi everyone, my name is Danica Poirier and I'm the Entrepreneurial Advisor at the InspireAction Centre. With these unprecedented times brought about by the pandemic, the InspireAction Centre decided that it was important to showcase some Restigouche entrepreneurs who, despite all of the restrictions in place, proved to be resilient and chose to use this experience to innovate and reinvent their business. Our hope is that entrepreneurs who are still dealing with the pandemic aftermath will find motivation in these videos and that they will also be a source of inspiration for other existing and aspiring entrepreneurs. Today you will meet Mrs. Tanya Parker, a physiotherapist and yogi who specializes in pain management. The pandemic proved to be especially complex for much of the service industry. Tanya will share how she dealt with her emotions, how Synergi Physio used technology to overcome many of the challenges brought by the pandemic, how the pandemic allowed her to realize future projects, and why she made the choice to expand her team in spite of all this uncertainty. Here's Tanya's pandemic story.
So right now we're gonna release your tight muscles in your low back. Synergi Physio is a physiotherapy and pain clinic that opened in September 2019, so 6 months before the pandemic kind of hit our area. It's a clinic we try to use best practice in physiotherapy, so what the research shows, we focus a lot on active treatment, so where the client participates in their own care, takes control, and we give them, we give people the tools to kind of manage their pain, manage their health.
So your business had to close for 2 months at the beginning of the pandemic and an additional 2 weeks in October. Did you at any point consider closing?
Yeah, I never had a doubt that we would not reopen, so we always, it impacted everybody, so we just had to go with the process. Like, if we need to close, we need to close. It's for the greater good. And same thing in October, we had an outbreak and we had to self-isolate, so we had to close the clinic. But again, it gives us a break, gives me a break. And then when I came back, actually my schedule was better because I could schedule make it more efficient. And so actually those breaks kind of provided us to remap and kind of adapt our schedule better to be more efficient.
I believe you hired a new employee and it kind of coincided with the pandemic, the start of the pandemic. So
yeah.
Tell us about how it panned out and why you decided to hire her anyways.
I had met Caroline in February and planned to hire her at the end of April. So March 17th is when we closed our doors. So she called me and said, like, do I still have a job? And I said, I don't know, like, what should we do? So, and that's when I decided, like, we're selling health and that's what people need right now. So I said, let's just go with it and we'll just, we'll do our best. We'll build what we think is best for everybody. And like I said, she was more than a rehab assistant. She had all this experience with the technology and so we recorded videos, wrote blogs. We have a YouTube channel now and a website. So all these things come out of that. Which was huge value to hire her. Plus a lot of the programs from the governments were for businesses with 2 employees or more. So that meant we qualified. If I wouldn't have hired her, I wouldn't have qualified for that help.
Would you say that taking care of your employee and yourself was one of your biggest concern, or is one of your biggest concern at the moment? And if so, how do you do that?
I had anxiety last year. I never had that, but a few times I woke up in the middle of the night with my heart racing and my thoughts going like crazy and I couldn't sleep and it was just like really overwhelming. It's the high levels of stress that we've had over a long period and I mean, it's not just me, it affected everyone, right? So, but I'm a yoga teacher, I practice meditation, so I just use my tools. I went outside, like I just, took it easy on myself, ate good food, and just try and connected with friends. So just reach out when I was down and when I needed help, and we would notice that, when somebody was down, we would bring them up, and then when I was down, my friends would bring me up, and it was always kind of a roller coaster ride, and it still is, unfortunately.
If it would have been for the fact that you had an employee with you, would you have been able to survive the pandemic, and how would that have worked out?
Yeah, it would be a very different situation. Yeah, if I didn't have those services, I'd be struggling financially. Yeah, not sure if we'd still be here.
So you partnered up with the Restigouche since the beginning of the pandemic. Is this something that you had in the back of your mind, one of the future projects that came about with the pandemic?
Yes, I've been thinking about that probably since 2016, and that's another thing. Caro and I used to work for another employer together, so she knew that, and that's what she said. So when are you going to do the Nordic Spa experience? And I'm like, we should now. And she said, yeah, because the Recroplex too was struggling. Like people, didn't come for months, and then they didn't renew their memberships. Like even now, and because of COVID, you can't have as many people. They used to have 100 people in the pool on the weekends, so now they can't, right? So a lot of the finance, they're struggling financially too. So we decided to just look at the center from another perspective. Like it's still a public pool, but if you dim the lights and put little music, like, it can change the ambiance, completely. So you just have to sort of sometimes look at the same thing, but from a different angle, and then you can offer something else, something that the community didn't have, but it's beneficial for so many people.
Of all the adaptations, the modifications, reinventing yourself, managing the crisis, which of those actions propelled you or gave you a bigger sense of accomplishment?
I like that question. I think that my biggest is my team. Like now I have Caroline, we have a student from community college, we collaborate with the Recroplex, so we're all kind of on the same page now. It's kind of forced us to look at how we can reinvent not just my business, but the whole center, because the Recroplex is a wellness center, and people need that now more than ever.
So we'll be honest, it's not all or every entrepreneur that chose to see or to view the pandemic in the same light as you did. Would you have any tips that you would feel comfortable sharing with those entrepreneurs maybe that are struggling a little bit more with the pandemic?
I think if your business is for the greater good, you need to keep going because we need you. People need you. And another thing is that, so my motto is pivot, don't quit. Right? So you may need to navigate it differently than you expected, but just keep going and things will fall into place.